Welcome to my YouTube channel, Q Baller. We are here to talk about Real Madrid. I just want to look at tactically how they set up and just look at a few positional differences. I don't want to really go into the tactics today. But before I start, people came in my comments and they were like, oh, what are you saying about Xabi Alonso? Oh my goodness me. Did you not see how bad Vinicius Jr. was? Was it not me who released the video of Vinicius Jr. 3 days ago saying this is the worst version of Vinicius Jr.? Where were you guys in those comments? Was it not me who came out and said, I've been tired of watching Vinicius Jr. not only for Real Madrid, but also for Brazil? I've told you guys that this is not the Vinicius Jr. of a couple of seasons ago. And all of a sudden today, without Kylian Mbappe, everyone's focused on Vinicius Jr., granted, because you're relying on Vinicius Jr. to do something because Mbappe's not there. And all of a sudden, you can really see that Kylian Mbappe was carrying Vinicius Jr. He was covering over the cracks. The things that Vinicius Jr. wasn't doing, Kylian Mbappe was. That's the problem. So this is where people now need to calm down and not be so shocked at the performance. He's been playing like that. He's been inefficient. He does his own thing when he's on the pitch. I get it. He started the game, basically won a penalty, and then it was outside the box. We thought, okay, today Vinny's on it. And I don't think he played terribly in the sense where he put a lot of energy in the game. He was running at his man. He helped with the flow of the game with Rodrigo in that attacking line. But output, null. Zero, nothing. And that's why I said he's not that Ballon d'Or player. Since then, he's regressed dramatically. And it's been so bad. And that's why when people say, oh yeah, this number 9, Gonzalo's needed, and Vinicius Jr. was shined. Do you know who shined? A player that hasn't scored in 32 games. Rodrigo. He was the player that shined, not Vinicius Jr. So what does that tell you about Vinicius Jr.'s performances? Because Kylian wasn't there. Who are you going to blame now? Oh yeah, because I did say Kylian Mbappe not being in there does affect Vinicius Jr. It does, because we saw today. How much space did Vinicius Jr. have roaming in here, running? How many 1v1s did Vinicius Jr. have? So many. So many. Because this guy operated these two centre-backs at one moment or another. And then you had Rodrigo, who was basically playing the way Rodrigo normally plays, as a floater. So what we saw Rodrigo was doing is floating all in these zones. You see them do this all throughout the game. And obviously he took his goal really well. You had O'Reilly in here on the counter-attack, of course. Madrid were in this situation. You had Jude Bellingham over here. And that pass from Jude Bellingham was played directly in there. O'Reilly was inside, but I mean, the Rodrigo touch, boom, perfect. Goal across the goalkeeper. So Rodrigo tactically was doing what he was meant to do. However, the problem comes when Madrid play a 9 and they're sometimes not option for him to be his man or him to be his man. And Madrid decide to go from the midfield, cross the ball to Vinicius Jr. or cross the ball in here, which happens a lot. You've seen Tchouaméni play that long pass, not even cross. I don't even know what I'm saying. The long pass over the top. However, with Gonzalo, that wasn't played that much. And I'm sure you guys realized when Gonzalo went off, what were Madrid doing? You had Alvaro Carreras doing his usual overlap, and he was crossing the ball into this area. And how many times did you find Vinicius Jr. in the box when crossing the ball? There was one where he tried a kind of overhead kick, skied it. He tried the header where he missed completely. And I said, this is my problem with Xabi Alonso. You're looking for a goal. You can't pick Kylian Mbappe. You have Endrick sitting on the bench. Who do you select? Oh, listen, let's bring on Brahim Diaz so that Brahim Diaz can play here. Why would you do that? Endrick would have scored that Vini header, 100%. And you know how I know I was right? Because when he came on, he had a header, he hit the ball. He rose above Vardio. He was in this area between the two posts. Endrick has the instinct of a finisher. No matter what you say about him, he's high, he is a finisher. Alonso, it would have helped you to have put on Endrick earlier or to have told your team to get the ball in the box to Gonzalo. He didn't get enough supply. Now, the good thing about Gonzalo, like I said, because of the runs he was making, even coming short, he was allowing space for this guy and this guy to go in there. So that happened a lot on the counter-attack with Real Madrid. That's why it was free-flowing. When Kylian Mbappe is on, he drifts a bit more to this side, which allows the team to kind of condense on one side of the pitch. When Gonzalo plays, what that does is it allows the pitch to be more spread out. Now, don't get me wrong, Gonzalo's involvement was minimal. However, that lack of end product from Vinicius Jr.'s side, and the reason why I'm focusing on Vinicius Jr. is because that's where most of Real Madrid attacks happen. Because even with Rodrigo on the right, Madrid, even with Valverde here, they don't attack in this zone that much. Madrid neglect. This zone for Real Madrid is neglected. That's the truth. The goal came from there, but this zone is so neglected when Madrid attack. They focus a lot on the left-hand side. Most of the players. Jude Bellingham, again, a good performance. Not the best performance, but a good performance nonetheless. A lot of people will judge him off his GA. He got the assist. Again, does it fit? Or would it be better to play Jude in that false 10 position? I call it a false 10 that he played in his first season. I call it false 10 because Jude found himself all the way here. But again, people are forgetting that you had Ceballos playing. As much as Jude was playing, you had Ceballos playing, and Ceballos is meant to be that composer, that dictator, but he didn't really take a hold of that game alongside Tchouaméni. And in the past, when Jude played that false 10, who did he have behind him? Kroos. He had Modric. It's not the same. It's really not the same when it comes to sustained periods of possession, sustained periods of shifting the team from side to side. Those players make a massive difference. Madrid just don't have that behind Jude. He tried it with Arda. He brought on Arda yesterday and he put Arda in that role. Again, Arda's too far away from the goal. Arda is more of a 10. And I said it. He has to decide who's going to play as a 10. Would you play Jude in that role? He wants to turn Arda into that kind of player. Has it worked yet? Not really. When Arda played as a more of a 10, did it work? Yes, because like I said, Arda's always looking for Kylian Mbappe. And the earlier you find Kylian Mbappe, the more goals you're going to have. The earlier you find Vinicius Jr., the more dribbles you're going to have, but not necessarily output, not necessarily a goal. He is a volume player, Vinicius Jr. He's a volume player. I've explained this many times. Nobody wants to hear me out, but that's the truth. And the more you begin to see it, the more you get less frustrated because you realize that that's what he is right now. So the quality of the output in every single action is not as good as what you expect it to be. If he dribbles the man, get the shot on target. That in 5 times that he will dribble the man, he will have 1 or 2 shots on target. That's the volume kind of player. Vinicius Jr. needs a lot of opportunities to make the difference. Rodrigo should be handed the left-hand side after performances like that. Because Rodrigo showed, okay, Kylian Mbappe is not there, I'm gonna stand up. Vinicius Jr. didn't do that. So for me, it's like, if you're gonna do that, you deserve the opportunity to show yourself. And again, Rodrigo, he's efficient. He hasn't scored in 32 games, but if you give him this for 10 games, I'm telling you, you're going to see an efficiency that you've never seen before. Because Rodrigo, out of 4 shots, he'll score 1 goal, maybe 2. He's very efficient. So people try to blame Kylian Mbappe. What's the problem now? I told you yesterday, I told you before the game, Kylian Mbappe is not the issue. The issue with Mbappe is the fact that he doesn't run into the box once he's played the ball from here. So if he comes here, dribbles, passes it out wide, he doesn't make that run, he stays here. That's the issue, not him going to the left. Because him going to the left is actually helping Vinny, from what we saw yesterday. Looking at Real Madrid from a defensive standpoint, yesterday you had Jude here, Tchouaméni, you had Jude, Tchouaméni, Ceballos, and Rodrigo. And then you had Gonzalo and then Vinny kind of coming inside. So it was almost like, as you can see, 2 banks of 4, 2. So you got the 4-4-2, very hard to break down. Of course, Man City tried to play passes in here, you know, into Foden, tried to play passes into Foden a lot. Tried to find Doku, and they tried to find Doku as often as possible, and Ray and Cherki in the early spells, but Man City didn't really get through these lines. because I think Madrid were really good in the sense of protecting these two centre backs and also having these two and the discipline of this back four. And Rodrigo really did drop. Rodrigo really dropped, you know, to come inside. And of course, a lot of the time he found Valverde 1v1 with Doku. But Madrid, on the attack, sometimes you are susceptible to being counter-attacked by a team like Man City who still have a lot of quality. But again, that was how Real Madrid lined up defensively, which wasn't bad because Vini didn't have to make, you know, that 20, 30-yard run back. So he just kind of went inside there, made it a bit more difficult for Nico Gonzalez. And then you had Gonzalo in there. And then obviously when they broke away, they kind of quickly spread out. Gonzalo, Rodrigo, you know, Jude would just join. You had Tchouaméni there and Ceballos kind of picking up that position. So I think Real Madrid, in a defensive sense, weren't actually that bad. I do believe they were a bit too passive, though. I felt like Madrid allowed Man City to get through them a bit too easy. And I think Madrid actually made Man City look more dangerous. I think Man City were more dangerous when it came to the final third than Real Madrid, and Real Madrid were playing at home. So that's a question that I don't really understand. Again, it's surprising the lack of quality in Madrid's attacks, the lack of very good opportunities being created. You know, a lot of them were from crosses. Is that really what Madrid want? I don't think so. I think there's a lot of work still to be done in the sense that this team is still ill-balanced. They don't have that refined spine, formation, cohesion that we're still in December asking them to have. And again, it requires some players being dropped. And we will talk about those players in the videos to come. I have spoken about those players already, but Xabi Alonso has to make a decision, a tactical one, but it will help the team become more refined and well-balanced. Cupola and the Coup Tacticos, I know you enjoyed this video, so make sure you subscribe, like, comment, share. I'll see you soon.